Exploration. It really was a hot summer's afternoon in that far-away, long-ago time when my body was small and supple and the world seemed so big, when a warm breeze played ancient games with my young hair, and all I knew was that I was on an adventure to the edge of who knew where. I remember reaching a crossroads where an old, tired signpost with its jointy pointers told of places I'd never known. To me, it looked as if it had been there since the dawn of time, leaning, exhausted, at an angle, giving it the appearance of a dying entity. I did my best to stop the huge bicycle that I was riding, eventually bringing my sliding feet down to touch the rolling gravel stones on the road once more. With some awkwardness, I got off and walked over to what I thought to be a busy junction, though I never did see a car on the country lanes that afternoon. One seldom did in those quiet days. On the opposite side of what I perceived to be a hazardous crossing, I stood on a tranquil lane that led to a village called Barnby in the Willows, an alluring English name that seemed to me a place from a fairy story. Two older boys, John Martin and Stephen Foster, had ridden over the crossroads like seasoned travellers, but like big brothers they waited while I skipped along to make speed so I could resume my position on the saddle and recommence the turning of the pedals. I was, after all, at just 5 years old, a veteran cyclist, having learned to ride more than a week earlier. What do I remember? Really remember? Well, passing by white clusters of weed blossoms in clumps within the long, lanky grasses that formed an endless verge, a precursor to an almost hidden ditch, a moat it seemed to me that guarded the long line of the high, unbroken hawthorn hedge that followed the snake of the lane. It was like being in a maze. Other wildflowers swayed in the breeze, the names of which are now long forgotten, all but for Old Man's Beard, which somehow remained in my memory because my granddad had told it to me. Fields lay beyond this impenetrable barrier, spreading over the heathen countryside, finally meeting the rise which became a hill on my left-hand side. To my right, a similar scene, except that the field stretched out for an eternity, to my simple eyes. Trees like elderly gentlemen with their gnarled bark waistcoats emerged now and again through the hawthorn boundaries, often near to where a rotting, weather-beaten pair of gateposts held on pathetically to dilapidated wooden 5-bar gates, a piece of worthless twine acting as the only means of security. And all over my head, my young head, a giant sky of absolute blue, so big I felt like an insignificant creature, but elated to be journeying under it and through the rural land of farms where distant cows lent their voices to the breeze, which in turn filled my nostrils with the country smells of manure, a smell that even today sends my mind spiralling back to this long ago afternoon. The journey wore on, and so did we. My little bare knees, like small pistons pumping up and down, kept me moving towards our final destination. And there it was, in the dusty distance getting nearer, a collection of assorted rooftops, odd chimneys poking out and making the buildings beneath appear to belong to another age. Presently we passed the old village sign poking out of the dry grass and arrived at Barnby, a place that seemed so full of playful possibilities, old barns to explore, back lanes running off the main thoroughfare that had led us out of the emptiness of the fields that we'd just crossed. I can remember thinking how wonderful it was that my legs had propelled me to another set of dwellings, a community of people who lived in this collection of grubby houses set in the middle of nowhere, me and my bicycle. I don't remember if we went to the church there to see where the little bridge spans the flowing waters of the Witham. I don't recall much of my first visit at all, nor even the return except in looser fragments, the day cooling with the lowering sun in my face instead of lighting the scene before me as we'd had on our outward leg. I also have a vague recollection of tiredness, for the work it took to get me home again was beginning to show in my 5-year-old legs. Whenever this day glides across my thoughts, I just have in my mind an afternoon when 2 older friends asked me to come with them on a bike ride, and so I went. I lived then in a childhood world of sunshine and freedom, it seemed to me. Somehow the rainy days, which meant indoor toys and games, have remained dull and grey and packed in a box. This day still shines, however, and although many of the pieces of my memory picture are missing from it, there's still enough to show what a glorious experience it was when I was just a boy.